This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And a welcome to episode number 44 of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am back in the fray, in the saddle here at Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company after taking a full week off and really 2 weeks from the studio. I was outside of the studio for the last recording of the podcast, Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company, because of Sound Mind, Sound Body football. That was 4 cities I've been to on the 6-city camp tour. 2 more cities coming up, which will take me to LA, the bright lights of Los Angeles, California. Thursday and Friday of this week. I leave on Wednesday night from Metro Detroit Airport, and then I go from LA back home to Motown for a little bit. Then I go right back to Washington, D.C. the following weekend. That's the last stop on the 6-city camp tour for Sound Mind, Sound Body football, Doc.
No, you've been doing your thing. You know, fan of the podcast, Steve, has missed you. He's kind of sent in applications for your replacements, and he's got good taste. You know, he said that, you know, Doc and Adam should really consider replacing you with a, you know, young woman reporter, voice of the podcast network. And I was like, you know, it's not a bad idea. Let me look into that. But then I said to myself, you know, I really did miss you. You know, the fun that we have on Tuesdays, I look forward to it. We banter back and forth off the air, and we do Facebook Live videos, and then we do the podcast. So I did miss you. But you are working hard. You're doing your thing, networking, and I think it's a nice opportunity for you to also see what it's like for how a football camp runs, how these guys put together, and the experience of working with kids and seeing what the excitement that they have practicing. And it's actually, you know, a lot of people say that the Sound Mind, Sound Body camp is really a professional camp that a lot of kids look forward to. It's well run.
It's the premier football camp, and it's an academy. It's a non-institutional youth football academy. That's what we like to go as, be labeled as, not as a satellite camp, because we're truly not, because we do more than just football, on-the-field football drills with the kids. There are speakers, motivational gurus, talking about life skills, the academics, being eligible to play at the next level in college, at the D1, D2, D3, and AIA levels. So it's about more than football and football skills, which is key to these kids. They don't know really right from wrong and what it takes to make it right at the collegiate and or NFL level if they make it that far one day, Doc.
See, I went there, and unfortunately, I had the preliminary interview, and they said, you know, they put on I seen my recruiting thing. It said, John Macaroon, sound mind, terrible body. So they were like, you know, we might need you to kind of step aside or just, you know, let the professionals handle it. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get that I am of sound mind, very bright individual, but terrible body. That part I'm working on nowadays.
You're lacking something with that in that department, but you're trying to lose weight. Haven't you shed some lbs? And since we last talked in studio, I got to believe you have. You're looking good. You're feeling good, right, as well?
Looking good, feeling good, trying to get to the official title of Sound Mind and Sound Body. But I like the fact that the camp really focuses on not only football, but academics. Get your grades right, because football, in the grand scheme of things, for athletes that even are professional, is only short term. You know, if you get a scholarship, it's an opportunity that you have to walk away debt-free. It's an opportunity to get an education that will earn you money if you don't make it in football. So the sound mind, sound body principles are great. I'm glad you're a part of it. You tweeted out a lot of pictures, and I'm thankful that I got a chance to see them and help you out a little bit with some retweets and some engagement as well. So it was cool. It was very, very nice to see. And now you're going to be traveling to California, back to Washington. So we'll see how this podcast project keeps going. And you're a hardworking kid, and it's nice to see.
I met a few guys in my networking experiences through these 4 camps that I've been to already that have a few inches on me, are a little bit taller. We met those kind of guys too. I did, and everybody else did. Guys that are just large human beings that are or were athletic specimens, you know, in their own right while playing the game of football. Kevin Vickerson is included in that area, in that department. He went to MSU, went to Detroit King before that, D lineman in the NFL for, I believe, 11 years, played for the Jets, played for the Broncos, great lineman with the Jets. Met him. He's full of laughter. Always cracking jokes, full of life. Loved meeting him. Loved meeting Devin Funchess. You guys probably saw the photo on Facebook or on Twitter. I know you tweeted it out. He has a few inches on me as well. But who doesn't, right? He's a big-time wide receiver target for Cam Newton in that Carolina Panthers offense. Played at the University of Michigan. And he's actually a Farmington Hills Harrison product as well. So a local guy that went to U of M, like I said. And he gives back to somebody, coaches too. So he's a guy that comes back. Kevin Vickerson's a guy that comes back. He's on the staff, the official staff. And through the years, he's actually helped host the camp as well. And so he's a big-time contributor, big-time influence on the football academy as part of the official staff at Somebody Football, Doc.
One of my favorite pictures that I saw was you with wide receiver from the Super Bowl runner-ups, Carolina Panthers, Devin Funchess.
I was just talking about that.
Yep, and it was nice to see, and it was something that, for me, it was like, oh, neat, a guy that was in the Super Bowl, a guy that obviously has Michigan ties, and nice experience for you to, get to meet him a little bit. Was he a cool guy when you met him?
He was. I talked to him briefly because he was coaching and everything, running drills, helping out with the wide receivers there at Somebody Football in Detroit at Wayne State. But yeah, the fun man. I believe it's called Funch and whatnot there in Carolina, and by fans of his and the Panthers, such as my brother. So yeah, he's a big-time target there in that offensive attack of the Carolina Panthers, led by QB Cam Newton, the MVP from last season. And as you said, Super Bowl runner-ups. They were that in Carolina this past season, losing to the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning, we all know about that, what happened. They should be good again, and he's a young, bright star in the NFL, a guy to watch out for many seasons now to come, and a guy that you would imagine will come back again to Somebody Football next year in Motown as well, Doc.
Again, so now what is your official role with the Sound Mind, Sound Body Camp?
I am the communications guy, pretty much the point man for that, and the PR manager. That's my official title, and I'm the social media moderator as well, running the Twitter account for Somebody Football, which is at SMSB Football on Twitter and on Instagram. Then on Snapchat, we're at SMSB Academy as well, Doc. So we're all over social media with Somebody Football right now.
Okay, it's going to run a couple more camps. When's it going to officially end then for you?
It ends the 23rd and 24th in Washington, D.C. So it's a 6-city camp tour. That's the last stop on the summer camp tour for Somebody.
Now, before we started, unfortunately, you told me that you were actually in Tampa over this last weekend, and the news that everyone's talking about, really sad news over the weekend in Orlando at the Pulse nightclub, the site of the worst mass shooting in United States history. Everyone's talking about it, and you were there, about an hour and a half away, and you said that you had some strong opinions about it. And it's a topic that is really just sad for me in that that you're going to have families that are devastated. It's a traumatic situation. It's something that doesn't just go away with the incident. It's long-lasting. It impacts not only the country, it impacts, everyone's psyche. It impacts family members, extended family members, knowing that, you had a loved one who perished in that way. And now they're investigating this gentleman, and they're trying to figure out what were his motives, what were the reasons why he would do that. And, just for me in general, just to know that someone could walk into a club with a weapon and do that much damage is concerning. Now, I'm a guy that leans to be conservative. So I definitely believe in the Second Amendment, but also let's just use common sense. An AR-15 should probably not be in the hands of most U.S. citizens. So I would tend to say that it's okay to say that, maybe we should have some stricter gun laws, and it's okay to say that, assault rifles should not be in the hands of citizens. I know that there's a big hunting, a lot of people hunt and they can do it safely, but these weapons are being used in terrible crimes for whatever reasons. And so you can still fight for the Second Amendment. Americans can bear arms, but maybe just not assault rifles. And it's just a sad thing. And I hope that after another incident, people actually stop with the bureaucracy and stop with the debate. I mean, if they didn't really change the laws and move towards stricter gun laws after, the Newtown school shooting, after this incident, I don't know what is it going to take. But in my opinion, these AR-15s need to be taken off the market as soon as possible. And when you look at the numbers, and my introduction to it was through Real Sports, HBO, and that fine program did a special just 3 weeks ago on their last episode. On their last monthly episode, they did a story on how these assault rifles are being used to hurt people, and they showed specifically how the bullets can damage individuals and how it's really it's a military-grade weapon. And it's just really unfortunate that it happened again so soon after that report. And a lot of people need to really take a serious look and go, would you be willing to give up that one weapon that fires off such a significant amount of rounds in such a short period of time? One weapon, that's going to cause everybody to have a strong debate. I still think you can do both. You can have stricter gun laws and still fight for the Second Amendment. And that's just my take on it.
And the thing is, too, this individual, an American-born man who had pledged allegiance to ISIS, is a man that was on the FBI's list, right? It was interviewed by the FBI in 2013 and 2014, was still allowed to get the guns that he did.
But he was taken off the list. That's the tough part, is to figure out as to how what was said to keep him off the list, and maybe in the future, if you're on the list, maybe there's maybe a permanent kind of watch where you get checked in on periodically. But you got to remember, it's a free country. You can't just keep people on these kind of lists forever. But unfortunately, the lone wolf thing is the toughest thing to kind of stop. But what you can stop is giving him a destructive weapon, where if someone's going to commit a crime, unfortunately, you have to say that maybe if he only shoots one or two people, it's a thing that can be mitigated instead of shooting and killing 49 people. Maybe if someone that commits a crime with a regular handgun can only kill one or two people before action's taken by security.
And the thing is, too, it's about those assault rifles, right, that are capable of mass murders, mass shootings that lead to mass murders. So, and I got to believe, too, that if you were on the FBI's, must-watch list or most wanted list at one point in time in your life, that means you should never be allowed to purchase another gun, another firearm. Why are you allowed then to go out and do what he did, being able to legally purchase a Glock pistol and a long gun in the past 2 weeks before this shooting at the Orlando gay nightclub called Pulse? Why was he allowed, though? If he was interviewed by the FBI and they didn't find the sufficient evidence, right, to do anything further, to put him behind bars and whatnot, or to bring a case forward, to prosecute him and whatnot, and to put him behind bars. Well, still, the thing is, he was suspected. He was a highly suspicious individual who had bragged about terrorist attacks, right? Remember that in his work, wherever he was working, he had talked about that with employees, his colleagues at work, talked about, coming out there, really being capable of carrying out a terrorist attack, bragging about it to his colleagues. How is that permissible? I mean, you got to take action when there is suspicion like that, right? And you can't allow a guy like that to purchase another firearm. And those kind of firearms, before this recording actually occurred, too, and I did my research looking into this story, it wasn't at that point confirmed whether or not he actually used that Glock pistol or that long gun in the shootings that led to the 49 deaths at the gay nightclub in Orlando called the Pulse nightclub. The thing is, still, the principle is that he was allowed to purchase those firearms at this point in the game. 2 weeks prior, or in the past 2 weeks, okay, up until the point of this shooting early Sunday morning in Orlando. I don't find that I can't find that being allowed. I don't want that to be allowed anymore. And there has to be something done about it to disallow that from happening in the future for guys that have been interviewed by the FBI. That's just my take on it. And then also, the other point that I wanted to bring up is, as that crying mother was on ABC Sunday morning talking about her son that was lost. Why can't we all get along? This can't be happening in today's day and age. Why are we still in this, why is it still the case where people can't get along? Why is it still the case at this point in time in today's society? I mean, remember, gay marriage is now allowed. That was a big thing, a monumental decision made by the Supreme Court that is in place now where people can get married. More laws have been passed in favor of the LGBT, of all these people, to allow them more freedoms, to get married, to have happy lives, to live out great lives with their loved ones, with their significant other. And now officially can because of that ruling by the Supreme Court. Yet we still have all this prejudice, all these prejudices, and people still hating on each other. And it's a lack of respect for others, for people that are different from one another, that are unique. But what makes us all unique is that we're human. As humans, we're all unique, we're uniquely human. So just because we don't see eye to eye with somebody, because of some differences, because they might love somebody that we don't, love a certain kind that we don't, doesn't mean that we can go out and hate on them or kill them. The hatred should not be there. And there's still so much hatred in this world in a day and age where there shouldn't be. Like, we're in the past, we're living in the past when we should be living in the present, in this present world that has been more accepting, opening the doors to people that are from the LGBT community. So we have to show that now, showcase more love, more respect for these people instead of hatred. And I believe it really comes down to that, too, to that principle, a lack of respect and hatred for those people when there shouldn't be that in today's day and age, Doc.
Yeah, exactly. The way you look at it is, okay, if you want to start looking for solutions, where do you start? Well, you start with the mental health system in the United States, allowing people who are disturbed to potentially get help, allow it to be easier access for people when they find themselves to be in struggle. And the other part is that I think people are doing it is be willing to openly share and report on people if you find them to be suspicious, and to really educate people and to relieve as much ignorance as possible, whether it be regarding gender, sexuality, religion, politics. We all just have to be able to debate each other respectfully and not get so heated and so in an attacking manner when you disagree with someone. I can have debates with people. I understand when people say, "Hey, you're conservative. You were brought up this way. I think that you think this about this." I go, "No, I don't think that way at all. I'm conservative on some things, more liberal on others. And if you want to have a debate, let's talk about it." But I understand sometimes people have their prejudices and their biases and things like that. But we just need to be able to tolerate each other more as people. And when things don't go right, people need to have access to mental health to be able to report, "Hey, I'm not feeling right about this. I'm not feeling like I'm handling these things correctly," and maybe you can prevent another mass situation. The other part is you just have to get these assault rifles off the streets because, unfortunately, it may be too late. There's been so many sold, and the HBO Real Sports, the show indicated that a lot of people use it now with a new target sport. They like to use it to shoot targets and, use it to hunt and to compete. So it might be already too late to get it off the market because so many have been sold. And so you just got to figure out that every single day, live your life to the fullest. Don't let these kind of people win, and realize that, the United States is a great place to live. It has its challenges, but the odds of you being attacked in a mass shooting are really low. Live your life fully, hope for the best, and we just got to try and do things to help limit this kind of thing in the future.
Because right now it seems like we're moving backwards, right? We're taking steps back, living in the past, like I said, where these things have already been attacked. We thought we're way past, racism, some of these prejudices that are out there with like I said, the LGBT community. And then the guns, the gun violence, the assault rifles being out there on the open market. We have the most, we have the most out there, the most guns per capita in the West. Of any Western nation, we have the most guns per capita. That's a problem in itself. And then all those being available, those assault rifles too, those big ones capable of large destructions, of mass killings, like we saw early Sunday morning in Orlando at that gay nightclub, the Pulse nightclub. And more homicides are caused by firearms in the U.S. than any other Western nation as well. It was about the guns, the mental health system, and then prejudices that should be, thrown to the wayside, should be already removed and long removed. But they're still present, and people hate on each other to tremendous degrees that have caused these kind of killings too. And why can't we just all get along? As that mother said, like I said, once again, she was on ABC Sunday morning talking about her son dying and how he had done all this stuff to be transcendent, right, in high school, to get something started for the LGBT community at his high school. Did all this stuff, really making strides. He was a pioneer. Other people have been pioneers now in the LGBT community to get the Supreme Court to pass what it did to allow marriages now to happen officially. That was a great start. But now we're going backwards with all this kind of stuff, all this hatred out there, leading to killings like this of all these gay, men and women, all these lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgender people at this nightclub. It puts us back. It does. It takes us backwards when we should be moving forward with that talk and with the LGBT community as a whole. We should be taking steps forward, continuing to take steps forward. And, you can disagree with their principles. You can view it as not being morally proper, but we can't go about getting rid of these people. These people are unique because they're human. We are all uniquely human, and we are all different because of that. And that's why everybody, no matter what you think about that person, and no matter what the person is all about and what he or she believes, no matter all that, everybody has the right to life and the rights to freedom. Each heterosexual person has the same rights to freedom, same privileges as other people that are from that LGBT community. And people have to start realizing that more and more. And until we do as a collective whole in the U.S., the nation will continue to be divided, and these ruthless acts will persist. They will continue to happen, and way too often, like they have in recent memory, Doc.
Well, let's hope that the powers that be, President Obama on Tuesday came out and gave a scathing speech against Donald Trump. He discussed, the progress made in the battle versus ISIS, and he discussed what has been done. And I really do believe that if the powers that be, the bureaucracy, the Senate and Congress, along with the president, can really take action, then we can actually come to fruition with what you want and have less of these attacks.
Absolutely, Doc, too, with that being said, about the issue of rights, equal rights for everybody, LGBT people that lost their lives. Ruthless acts will continue to exist because of the fact that hatred exists. It is so looming, so overpowering There's so much of it when there shouldn't be such an overbearing effect with it anymore. Shouldn't be as prevalent, but it still is prevalent. Isn't that a problem in today's nation as well? Way too much of the hatred and a lack of respect for others that are different from us when we are all uniquely human, as I've already stated, Doc.
Yep, just like we all said, just watch what you say to people, watch how you categorize different groups of people, and just consider, like you said, we're all human, we all have feelings, and we just need to be able to treat each other much better and allow, differences to occur. Despite, sometimes some people getting angry or upset that, people say different things. You just have to understand, forgive people for what they do and say, and allow yourself to treat everybody how you'd want to be treated. Keep it simple, and we'll move along from this kind of stuff.
And then, you're right. And then wanting to ban people from the nation because of this, when this guy was an American-born citizen, a guy, his parents were from Afghan, I believe, right? Afghanistan. But the thing is, born here in the Bronx or in Queens, moved to Florida then. And, a guy like Donald Trump calling him out for being a Muslim then, well, you can't kick out all the Muslims. You can't do that. They're here. Some of them were born here. Their parents were from there, but they moved here when their kids were born. So you can't do that to them either. And it's not a Muslim issue. It's not an issue. It's an issue of hatred with all races. And also an issue with prejudices. You being different, all of us being different from one another. We got to deal with it, coexist, and learn to coexist much more, Doc, and that's the key going forward as a nation for the whole entire nation, too. And until that starts happening more often, more consistently, there will be ruthless acts like this continuing to happen, like I said, Doc. And I want to see an end to that, like we saw an end to everything else that was bad, was prevalent back in the day. As I said, with the civil rights movement and stuff, that helped end some stuff. But now we're seeing some other stuff flare up with bad and people hating more and more on each other, hating on other races, hating on these people from foreign nations, too. Stuff like that ended or should have happened and should have ended a long time ago. And now we're seeing it still being prevalent. Well, something has to give, right? Something has to end here and coming up sooner than later. And something also with the mental health system, you're right, Doc. With that would help curtail a lot of this. And with the curtailing and or the complete overhaul of the system with guns, being allowed to buy these assault rifles, that has to be ended as well. And I think a complete ban of those rifles and a revamping of the mental health system too, Doc, to prevent these issues from flaring up in the future. Because we can't have this being a huge issue in the next presidency. And when my kids are born, when your kids are growing up, Doc, we don't want to see this being an issue still with race, with people that are ethnic looking. They shouldn't be judged based on that. We got to get rid of these preconceived notions, Doc. We really do. And that's a key going forward. Because we can't be treating these people like they're second-class, third-class citizens, like people treated the slaves. Stuff like that with different races ended a long time ago. And then the civil rights movement happened for African Americans. And now it's like we need something such as that to flare up, a big-time movement to happen again now for these people from outside our country. These people need to be helped out, such as the African Americans were helped out in the early to mid-1900s with the civil rights movement. Now we need a movement for these other people that are of maybe the Afghan descent, but they're not from Al-Qaeda, though. Doesn't mean they're from Al-Qaeda or from the Taliban. Doesn't mean anything like that they have any kind of association with that. So we got to move past our preconceived notions and accept these people for who they are and the LGBT community as well, Doc. Because everybody should be accepted because we're all uniquely human, no matter our differences in our views that are maybe based on religious preferences or political preferences, Doc.
I agree with you 100%. I think that you have every right to discuss it, and let's just hope and pray that everything works out for the benefit and that we don't have to talk about this much more. It's happening way too much, and it's a very sad thing. I'm trying to limit my exposure to it watching on CNN, on the radio, but I'm drawn into it like a lot of people to see now, news reports today that his wife maybe knew about it.
Right.
And stuff like
maybe
that.
Maybe help plan it.
It's just going to be ever evolving because of the nature of it, but you just got to just get back to the things you love, and I'm looking forward to hearing your take on the Tigers and what's happened. It was especially what happened, Monday night's game versus the White Sox. We were recording a podcast on Monday evening, and we were like, oh, it's all good. We're up 7-0. Let's, be happy, be relaxed. We're likely going to be 33-30. And in the end, now we're 32-31 as of this recording. A game that I'm just utterly shocked that they lost. Devastating loss. And it might have severe repercussions in the season in that you go through the season and there are some big games that you may look to that if you're close in a pennant race or in a race for the division, a game where you're up 7-0, you're supposed to win.
And you know what? We have to allow ourselves to kind of realize that, you know what, the Tigers, for as good as they have played recently, they still have their flaws. We know that. And Matt Boyd probably shouldn't be starting every fifth day at this point. They need another starting pitcher. And they needed to have Bobby Parnell replaced, which they have now done, demoting him. So that's a good step. A step in the right direction there for the Tigers. But blowing that 7-run lead against the White Sox, who have been miserable of late. Them and the Royals have fallen on hard times. The Royals lost 8 straight at one point. The White Sox lost 7 straight at one point. Then they do this to us to come back from that big of a deficit, 7 runs down. Okay, when they're not even a great hitting club. Their offense has been so inept outside of Todd Frazier. And even you look at his average, not great. Not great numbers all around besides for his power production. So they need some guys to bounce back to really pick it up, the White Sox, because they've been so offensively inept. And then they come back from a 7-run deficit. You think the Tigers had it in the books, right? I know you thought that you were saying recording a podcast, and you guys thought the Tigers had it in the bag. They should have been. It should have been a foregone conclusion that they were holding on to that lead and winning that game by maybe not 7 runs, but by a few runs because they were up by so much early on after blasting James Shields. They did early on, got to him right away, and made him look silly. I mean, he's not a good starting pitcher anymore, really, that you can rely upon there. And the White Sox might have made a bad decision trading for him. They didn't give up a ton, but it really is looking like more and more now that trade is not going to work out for the White Sox, who have to pay him now for more than this season. He has a contract with the White Sox that extends past 2016, Doc.
Don't they have like a buyout? Didn't I hear something like they could, or he could opt out, or isn't there some kind of ramification or provision in the deal where they can get out of it, I believe, if you want to look into it?
They're hoping. I know they're hoping for that, and that could be a ramification. But the principle is they made that deal for him to be an upgrade in the rotation for this year to balance out the end of the White Sox's rotation, because the back end isn't as strong as, the top 3. The first 3 arms in that rotation, Chris Sale, Cy Young candidate there. Great starting pitcher at the top. You got Quintana following him, and then Rodon, a youngster who's a really good starting pitcher as well, and will be a good guy in that 3rd spot, or maybe even the 2nd spot in the White Sox rotation in the future. So they liked their 1 through 3, but they needed to upgrade the back end of that rotation, because I know they let go of Latos. I believe they just did recently, so that's why a trade was warranted. So they made the move to get Shields, but he has not been an upgrade so far. And he allowed 7 runs early on against another club before the Tigers on Monday night. So Shields has struggled out of the gate in a White Sox uniform as he's made the transition back to the American League. But the Tigers, to sum it up, they blew that game, and now will they even win 2 out of 3 against the White Sox, Doc? That's the question, because they got Chris Sale on the mound they have to face on Wednesday night.
Well, yeah, again, you thought that, Pelfrey versus Sale number 1, would go in the White Sox favor, but hell, Pelfrey held his own and they won that game. So you have Jordan Zimmerman pitching Tuesday. You think you have a chance to really win. And like I said, I really think that game to game, you have a situation where this is a 500 club, and whether they achieve success or not this season is going to be predicated upon a lot of things having to happen. This is not a ball club that's just going to go out there and just wing it. Look at Vito. Ian Kinsler is having a career year. Yeah, look where they sit with all those with that production. Why? Why is that the case? Because you had a stretch of time where you lost 11 to 13. You had a stretch of time where your pitching staff was in disarray. Now you've made some shifts, and you're still a 500 team. You just aren't a team that I don't think can get ahead of. I don't think you're a team that's going to be that far ahead of 500 just because of the talent on the field. Whether it be the starting pitching not delivering all the time, whether it be the combination of the offense, the offensive struggles at times, the inconsistency. This is a team that just, when you look at it throughout the course of the season, Vito, it's just going to be a team that's going to have games like this, is going to have stretches of time where they play well, and in the end, when we look back at the end of October, November, you're going to see a team that's going to be around 80 to 85 wins, and it's because the talent's not good enough. That's as simple as that. If the talent's not good enough on this squad to really do some damage, but even though you say that in totality, you still have some great storylines, Michael Fulmer being one of them, Ian Kinsler being another. I'm of the opinion that you look at the positives and you say, okay, what can you do with those positives to potentially help this ball club? And it's going to involve making moves. I'm of the opinion that they should sell. They're not going to. And I've stated it before, I don't think this is a World Series caliber team, and you're just delaying the inevitable. But what's going to happen is they're going to hang around because the division's so soft. What's going to end up happening is the Tigers are going to buy. They're going to add 1 or 2 pieces, and they're going to make their move. And in the end, I think you're going to come up snake eyes. But hell, let them try it. And we'll look back and see who was correct. I think the Tigers are going to look to add pieces. You have pieces in place, just not World Series caliber pieces. And, that's what we see. It's actually, I was frustrated that K-Rod wasn't able to close it out, but it was only his second blown save, his first one since opening day. So he's overall been a good piece. Just horrible timing to lose that game at that time, knowing where the series shakes up, knowing that you got a series coming up against KC. So it was
KC was 20-7 at home, Major League best record at home so far this year. And then the White Sox have Chris Sale going on Wednesday night against Mike Pelfrey. It's Mike Pelfrey against Chris Sale again. I don't like the odds of the Tigers winning that one, going up against Chris Sale, beating him twice in this small of a time frame, and really twice in the same season even. Just talking about that, twice in the same year doing that against Chris Sale. That's going to take a lot to get done. So now they might not even win 2 out of 3, and I thought they had just turned the corner, beating the Yankees 2 out of 3 this past weekend. It looked like they were turning the corner, won some really good games where they allowed 1 run, back-to-back days, Verlander and Fulmer on the mound Sunday. And let's give some credit now to Fulmer, his success, and to the man who brought him to Motown at the trade deadline last year, and Dave Dombrowski, the current general manager of the Boston Red Sox. He's a man calling the shots there in Beantown. Looking good in Beantown. And he is looking great with this deal that he made, giving up Cespedes, who's did well down the stretch there with the Mets, and has so far this year too, okay? But the thing is, facts are facts, and the Tigers needed to upgrade their rotation. And this guy can pitch now. He's showing it and can pitch for the future. He's a youngster, and right now, a heavy favorite, I would say, to win the AL Rookie of the Year. So we got to give some love. Got to give, I think, a lot of credit right now to Dave Dombrowski for pulling that move last year.
Oh, definitely. I was asking on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, do you think Michael Fulmer will be the ace of the staff in the next 3 years? I'm thinking, listen, when he pulled off that streak that you just spoke about regarding the 28 or so innings.
28 and a third, yep.
28 and a third innings without giving up a run. The second pitcher in 100 years to go 4 starts, only giving up 3 hits or less and no runs, with Jake Arrieta being the other.
Just doing it, yeah.
Those are not just average stats. Those are like exceptional, eye-raising stats going, whoa, this guy's doing some things that are really spectacular that you don't see too often. And so with that, it gets you excited as a fan, sitting here going, what's the ceiling on this kid? Is this kid going to be the next Verlander? Is he going to be a guy that's going to maybe give us some highlights with a no-hitter, complete games, perfect games? This guy's ceiling is steadily raising, and it's looking like this is going to be the feature guy, the feature arm in this rotation for years to come. And it's nice to see. It's gotten me excited knowing that I've asked and hoped that the young talent that we got here in Detroit, and it's vast with Larkin on the Red Wings, with Drummond, with the Pistons. There's vast young talent in Detroit all around. I want them to take that next step, be superstars in the league, not just in Detroit. And Michael Fulmer could be a guy that could be a top 5 all-around Major League Baseball talent. And look out, Mike Ilitch. You might have to be writing another $200 million check to some guy in the near future.
Yeah, to keep him. Right now, scoreless streak of 28 and a third innings, putting him 12 and 2/3 frames shy of the rookie record Grover Cleveland Alexander set in 1911. All the way back to 1911, this record dates back to. That's how good, how impressive Michael Fulmer has been up to this point. And, he blanked the Yankees over 6 innings Sunday. Now, it's not the Yanks lineup of years past. It's not your grandfather's Yankees with a bunch of mashers 1 through 9, but still, he is, right now, with that being said, the first Tiger in at least 100 years to post 4 straight scoreless starts, Doc. Mightily impressive. Now, is it smart or dumb, Doc, to say that if Fulmer continues to pitch well, and if the Tigers make their way to the top of the AL Central and win it this year, win the division, that Dave D deserves the same amount of credit as current general manager Avila for this club's success?
Let me think about that. Let's take a quick timeout, give love to our sponsors. Let me think about that very question. We'll reset it on the other side, and I think it's a very good debatable point.
Doc, as always, I look forward to your response about Fulmer and whether or not it's smart or dumb, and we'll get that response out of you after this quick commercial break here on Tiger Stock with Chirco & Company. Vito Chirco here for Top Cat Sales. Looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Then look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan quarterback John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and the very best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going online to TopCatTeamSales.com. And also remember to follow Top Cat Sales on Twitter at Team Top Cat. Back on Tiger Talk with Chirco and Company alongside Doc. He is my in-studio person as usual, right? He always is, and no guest today, but we've got to talk about, as I left all of you with this question, smart or dumb? It was a smart or dumb question for Doc that I left him with before the commercial break. And regarding Michael Fulmer, Doc, do you remember the smart or dumb? I will give it to you again here. Is it smart or dumb to say that if Fulmer continues to pitch well, and if the Tigers now as a whole find a way to win the AL Central this year, that Dave D deserves the same amount of credit as current general manager Avila for this club's success?
I think it's smart. Yeah, I think that Dave Dombrowski, when you look at the totality, did some things on his way out when you realize that the Tigers sold. They had to get rid of David Price. They got rid of closer Soria, and they brought back some pieces. But at the same time, a lot of people will say that Avila had a significant influence in some of these moves, and he did a lot of extensive work behind the scenes to get these deals done. But I think it's smart to say that, Dave Dombrowski, in his time in Detroit, tried his absolute best to get the job done. And he was given a nice payroll. The one thing that you can argue is that he really decimated the minor league system, but you have to give up pieces to get pieces. You don't get these guys. You don't get a Kinsler. You don't get to move Prince Fielder. You don't get to acquire talent that you want year in, year out without giving up pieces. That's just the way it is. And so his great ability was to, dump some people that maybe didn't turn out to be great and got in some great talent. But Avila is going to now be tested at the trade deadline because it's now his turn to make moves to improve this squad. This squad, as built, will probably finish 500. So you
think so?
Yeah, no, as is will be 500.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're going to do, and it's going to happen, even though the doc has said time and time again that they need to sell, blow it up, destruct, really acknowledge that this window's closed. I've said it. I'll own it if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'm a big Tigers fan, and I want them to do well. But I think the window's closed, and I think they should start the process of looking to 3 or 5 years down the road to make it happen. But they're not going to do that. So what I want and what's going to happen are two totally different things. You now know what I want. What's going to happen is they're going to look to potentially move some guys in the minors, maybe move one guy that's a contributor and get a starter and another bullpen arm. That's what you need. You need a bona fide starter, probably in the 3 to 5 range, looking for a bona fide 3 through 5 guy. Look to solidify that rotation. You're going to need a guy in that bullpen to come out and really, come in, eat innings. That's what you need. You need 2 guys, 1 starter, 1 bullpen guy. You get that, now you have a chance if the offense clicks at the right time, if everything stays as is with the offense, if Kinsler stays hot, if JD keeps hitting the cover off the ball, if Miggy gets hot at the right time, if JD's healthy, if Victor Martinez stays healthy, if all those things happen, which it could, it's happened in the past, if all that happens, they add those pieces, now you have a chance in the postseason to make some noise. And in the end, if you have ultimate success, maybe you make a deep run and get to the World Series.
And now you talked about the need for another starting pitcher. I think we both agree on that front, and a lot of Tigers fans agree on that front too. And I think when you look at Matt Boyd and what happened to him on Monday night, it gives even more reason to the fact that they need a starting pitcher.
Yeah, it's not enough, but he's young. That's why
we need another starting, a veteran guy that can be an A.J. Burnett kind of guy. We talked about him before when he did pitch for the Pirates. He was that great, really veteran anchor along with Liriano, who struggled this year, but Burnett was an all-star last year. We need a guy like that who's kind of in that mode of being the veteran guy that can anchor the rotation, be that Kenny Rogers type, as a number, not even as an ace or as a top of the rotation guy, but as a number 4. As a number 4 kind of guy to solidify the back end of the Tigers' rotation. Better than a Matt Boyd can. Better than probably Daniel Norris can as well. Because we expect him to emerge onto the scene. We like what he has brought in the past. We like his potential. But this year, it's about winning in the now. Well, they got to get an upgrade and get a veteran type to anchor the back end of that rotation. A guy that can throw some innings too, Doc. So I don't know who that's going to be, but it's not going to be Matt Boyd. I don't think even Daniel Norris can be expected to do that at this point either. And Shane Green's in the pen now. I don't expect him to be the guy going forward as well as that solid number 4 that solidifies the back end of the Tigers' rotation.
Now, do you think that either Shane Green or Anibal Sanchez will earn their way back into the starting rotation? Anibal looked good in his role so far. Now, when he pitched on Monday, I said to myself, okay, I'm a little bit panicked. I'm not sure that he can go extended innings, but he did a good job. He reared back, threw 95 miles an hour, got guys to strike out, but in the end, he just gave up that 1 run, and that can happen in the extra innings. But he looks like a guy that's working to gain his confidence back. Now, the Tigers are saying, okay, we want you to gain your confidence back to maybe potentially get back into that starting rotation because of the salary. You can't have a guy making $16 million coming out of the bullpen. I don't see that as their goal for him. For me, I would rather keep him there, keep Green in there, because what you're seeing is Green has been a guy that's gone in there in the 8th inning. He's gotten guys out 1, 2, 3. Anibal Sanchez has gone into the bullpen. He's gotten outs. Now, what you really need is a guy that can be the true long reliever, the guy that in case in the postseason, a Verlander goes out there and goes 2 innings, gives up a couple runs, and is really struggling. A guy that can go 6 or 7 innings and do some damage and get some guys out. Look what Bumgarner did in the World Series. You know, he came back and they brought him out in that clinching game, and he went out there and was like, boom, inning after inning after inning. You need a guy like that. You need a workhorse, a guy that you can count on in tight games if you need him from the 5th through the 8th inning, that he can go out there and do the job. Right now, Green, Sanchez are like 1 and 2 inning guys. You got Wilson's. I don't know if you have that true bona fide long inning guy that you count on, that inning after inning could get you zeros. That's what they need. They need a guy that they stick in there in that bullpen that they can go, you can reliably in crunch time, in the moment where you need them, go 4 innings, put up all zeros consistently.
That would take a lot, though, to get a guy like that. Madison Bumgarner, those kind of guys don't grow on trees, too, remember.
It might be, you might need to have a series of guys that go 2 innings at a time. And you said it yourself, Jimenez is just
I think Jimenez should be the guy that is added to the bullpen at some point. And I think sooner than later, and I think he'd be that middle innings guy to lengthen the pen as well. And then he could pitch 1 full inning, and maybe Sanchez can give you another inning, and Shane Green can give you an inning. That could be 3 innings right there, but I think right now, you asked me about maybe Shane Green or Anibal Sanchez working their way back into the rotation. I don't think they're going to work their way back into the mix of things in the rotation. I think they're better suited at this point, especially Shane Green can throw with some velocity there in the pen, as he only comes in to pitch an inning or 2. I think he's better suited for that kind of role where he's pitching 2 innings at the max. I think him as a guy that can pitch 1 or 2 innings. And you have Joe Jimenez there, too. Those 2 guys can lengthen the depth of the bullpen, can make it better, more efficient in the middle innings. And Sanchez might make his way back into the rotation, but he's a 5th starter at best at this point, in my opinion. And he might even be better suited. And I think truly is. It's just you're paying him so much money, they're probably going to let him try to get back into the rotation. But for the question of where he's better suited at this point, I think it actually is the pen in a long relief role, where I think Shane Green can be the long reliever too, but can even be that 1 inning guy who can shut down a team because he can throw with some velocity, and Jimenez, same thing. So I think you have 2 good innings in the middle innings now that you can expect out of Shane Green, who's done well so far, can maybe even do better, and then you got Joe Jimenez coming up from the farm system. That can be 2 solid innings right there, pitched in middle relief, out of your middle relievers. Let's say that the Tigers haven't maybe had in recent memory that they can now. And then they still have the improved back end of the pen with the guy in K-Rod who blew the save Monday night, but only has 2 blown saves on the season. So you got him, Mark Lowe, Justin Wilson. Those guys have to be more consistent, but Wilson has shown that in the beginning of this season. Mark Lowe has to be more consistent as a whole. But if you can get more results, more productive results out of those 3, that trio at the back end of the game, and you get a solid performances out of Shane Green and Joe Jimenez in middle innings, and then Anibal Sanchez as a long reliever. Well, you got a solid, the makings of a solid bullpen now for the first time in a very long time, and the first time since the Tigers have truly been contenders. It'll be the case where they have a strong enough pen to possibly get it done even in the postseason. Now, getting to there, though, they need that 4th starter, as we said, and I believe they will make that move to upgrade the rotation for a number 4 starter come the trade deadline, July 31st.
Okay, so now where are you sitting with this current squad? Are you thinking that, okay, based on what you're seeing, you're increasingly confident that they were able to rebound after that losing streak and have played better ball? They've had a consistent, they went, 4 or 5 wins in a row. They played really well at home. Now they're on the road, 10-game stretch. They're going to finish out with it's going to be the White Sox and Kansas City before they come home for a stretch versus the Mariners. So how are you sitting with this squad when you look at it objectively? Because that's what your role. My job is to swing wildly and go off the handle when they play bad, and I'm the fan. What do you think objectively about these Detroit Tigers?
Right now, I like how they've played. I like what they did over the weekend against the Yankees too. That showed me they might be turning the page.
Oh,
I thought, but then they lose like they did Monday night. Okay, and that's a bad sign. But it's one game. teams have bad losses that win a lot of games that win in the playoffs, too. So the Tigers might be, and I think they are better equipped to make a postseason run if they get to the playoffs. Like I said, the key thing is, if they get, will they get there? If they do, though, I think they are better equipped to make a postseason run because the bullpen looks to be better. And especially if Joe Jimenez comes up and is a flamethrower out of the pen that gets batters out consistently. If he is when he does come up to the big league team, and they've got Shane Green being productive, Mark Lowe being more productive at the back end of games, and K-Rod keeping up with his consistency closing out games outside of Monday nights, blow up there. They got a stronger bullpen than they have in recent memory. They really do. Big time, too, Doc.
Should Doc buy or sell on the 2016 Detroit Tigers?
Buy. It's 2016 is a different season than last year. I know what you're thinking about the team because of last year, but the offense is improved maybe too, especially if Upton picks it up, which he has done kind of late. Got a big single last night. Now, it didn't lead to a Tigers win. We thought maybe it would. It was adding to the cushion for the Tigers lead, but Upton has performed more. Better OPS now. Like the last 7 games at one point, I think prior to last night, his last 7 games, he had an OPS of 900 plus. That's a major league caliber and an all-star caliber OPS right there. So I like what he has done, and I think what he can do going forward. Then Castellanos still around 300. Cabby hasn't done great all the time, but he can be even better. V-Mart, we know what he's done this year. They've got a deep lineup, and J.D. Martinez has done well of late. We saw what he did even Monday night. So we've seen what he can do when he's going. So the lineup, I like what they have, and Kinsler at the top. You got that guy being so productive right now. Has already, 14 home runs? On pace for his most home runs. He hit 30-something with the Rangers. But leadoff home runs, all these leadoff home runs too. He's been incredible in that regard. So if he keeps up with the power production at the top of the lineup and really gets on base, that's his key role. If he does that and gets on base for the likes of Miguel Cabrera, J.D. Martinez, V-Mart, Nick Castellanos, even Jay Up, that's a deep, deep lineup all season long for the Tigers then. So really, for me, it's figuring out the back end of the rotation. And the innings limit. Will there be a limit for Michael Fulmer at some point? Will they cap it at some point? That's a discussion the Tigers will have to have at some point this year as well, and especially if they're in the thick of things in a pennant race, Doc.
Okay, I just see this kind of a wait-and-see approach. You're gonna really, like I said, win a couple, lose a couple, have stretches of really success with the offense and pitching, and have stretches where they make key mistakes. That's just where they're at. I'm very fascinated to see what Avila and management is going to do to improve this squad. And we're going to check out I'm really interested to check out the Tigers. I'm actually going to Comerica Park, the second game of the series versus the Mariners, and I'm taking my nephew, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I'm hoping that the Tigers play well, and I'm hoping that you go back home and play well in that series versus the Mariners. And really, in the end, the Tigers are playing a better brand of baseball. I'm just saying, I'm looking at the club in 2 ways. 1, are they World Series caliber? I say no. 2, I say, okay, what kind of style are they playing? And they're playing okay. They're getting hits. Ian Kinsler is revitalizing the offense and making the team bond a lot better. And I look to see what the pitchers are doing. They're okay. They could be better. They're up and down. But it's basically like, the old adage, they are who we thought they were.
Denny Green style right there you're trying to pull out?
Denny Green style.
Trying to copycat him, but you know what? Maybe they are, but they're more than a 500 club, and I think they can be a good team in the playoffs. If they get there once again, key is getting there, and they have to be better at home. That's the key. The Royals right now are 20-7, a Major League best 20-7 at home at Kauffman Stadium in KC. Tigers 17-13 at Comerica before Tuesday night's game, now on the road against the White Sox. So they have to improve upon that record as well at home, Doc, in my opinion, to make a run in the division and to win the division this year. That is very, very key because Comerica's been a place they haven't fared extremely well, especially last year with all the losses that piled up. They weren't a good home ball club. They've got to be that. They want to be a competitive ball club that wins potentially a pennant. And first and foremost, the division crown in the AL Central, which I think is up for grabs. I think the Royals can be dethroned. Moustakas is out now for the season. We know that much about him. That's a big loss there in KC for their lineup. Tigers can maybe catch them now at the right time. They haven't played extremely great ball. So when they go to Kauffman, if they win that series, I think the Tigers, that'll be a good mark / good sign of the Tigers and where they're going forward. And I think it'll be a sign of them moving upward in the AL Central and doing so consistently to the point where they will be at the top or toward the top of the AL Central all year long. If they do well, once again, against KC in this upcoming series, which I think, once again, they can do. I think the Royals can be dethroned.
Moustakas with that injury, the way they've been playing lately, they've been beatable, but
they've been declawed, and they lost 8 in a row. They can be declawed. You can take away from those claws of theirs. I think you can consistently going forward too.
I would say the best bet is to call a split. I think they'll go out there and Is it a 4-game set?
They start on Thursday night, yeah.
I would give it a split.
Okay.
I give it a split. That's all. I think the Tigers will look to compete with Kansas City. Look at it as a measuring stick. They'll play well a couple games. Kansas City will play well a couple games, and it'll be interesting to see because Zimmerman might. Let's see, he's pitching.
Zimmerman pitches
Tuesday. So does he get to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? He might be there Sunday. So the tail end of the series. But hey, you never know. The Tigers may come out there and they may do some significant damage. But the rational thought going into it is that they're going to split.
So you got to be more optimistic. I know I've been the optimistic guy, and I'm the journalist guy, and you're the fan. But I know the negativity has been circulating all throughout Motown earlier in the season. Now, of late, though, there's more positivity, and you still haven't caught on. You still haven't jumped on the bandwagon, which is a credit to you to being realistic as well. So you can be optimistic or pessimistic, but you have to be a realist, too, and I think you are that, and maybe even more than me at times. But I see the Tigers turning the page a little bit, and the White Sox winning the way that they did. That won't happen very often from any Major League Ball club, and especially the White Sox, who have been anemic offensively consistently in 2016. Outside of Todd Frazier, as I said, not many consistent run producers in that lineup every single day. And that's why I think the White Sox will continue to fall back, and they won't have these explosions of offense on display very often and be able to beat the Tigers like they did Monday night. And I can almost bet it won't happen where they do this again to the Tigers. I think the Tigers are going to be too good, and the White Sox won't be as good going forward. The White Sox had their fun, had their great success in the beginning of the year, but they're falling back and will continue to more and more do so to where they might fall to third or fourth place, and the Tigers will emerge to second place at least. I think as the season goes on, and I think even possibly by the All-Star break. Because you have the Indians, but their lineup, Mike Napoli is carrying that offense right now, and Brantley's great. I love him. And Napoli, can you really trust him? There are the flaws, are the question marks in that lineup, and that's why the Indians could even fall back a little bit. But the strength of their pitching, the strength of that, the depth in that rotation 1 through 5 is leading that team right now to good places. And that's why they are where they are right now in first place in the AL Central. And they could continue to be there because of the strength of that rotation. But as I said, the lineup, Napoli keeping it up. He has to do that, and Brantley has to be the anchor of that offense for the Indians to win the division. And that's why I like the Tigers. I like the Tigers' odds. They could be that second place team, could be the team to dethrone the Royals. And if they don't do it right now, how I see the Central, if the Tigers don't dethrone the Royals, I think the Indians will be the team to dethrone the Royals for the AL Central Division crown.
Okay, couple of points before we get out of here.
Yep.
Any concern about Zimmerman? Last performance wasn't that great. Coming off an injury, I'm looking forward to peeking in to see what he does Tuesday night. You think he comes back and is the guy that is the ace, or do we see struggles ahead?
It'd be the team to do it against the White Sox. As I said, anemic. Now I know it's on the road in Chicago, but their crowd isn't always rowdy, so I see him bouncing back Tuesday night against the White Sox.
Very good, very good. And then Victor Martinez, Monday night's game was available to be a pinch hitter, but he said he tweaked his knee. He kind of joked around and said, hey, I'm just getting older. Do you think it lingers? Do we see Victor Martinez with any major injury that takes him, puts him on the 15-day DL the rest of the way?
I told you it could be lingering all year long for V-Mart, okay? Those knees are fragile now, baby. I mean, he's 37. He's not 37 years young either. So I could see him going on the DL for one stint. It just can't be prolonged. So, yes, a 15-day DL stint could definitely be in the future. Unfortunately, for V-Mart and the Tigers, Doc.
Oh, you see him,
See, that's where I'm being the pessimist. I got to be the pessimist. I thought so to start the year off that would happen for V-Mart at some point. But his offensive prowess so far has really surprised me with that being said. And that's why I could see the case where he keeps up the production but still has to go on the deal at some point because of some lingering issues with the knees, Doc.
All right, before we get out of here, I want to know what you think. 6 games will be upcoming before we record again. What do you think their record will be? The series finale against the White Sox, the 4-game set versus Kansas City, and the first game versus the Mariners. Where are we at next week when we record?
I say at least 3-3, but I am more the optimist. I like how the Tigers have played, and I think the blowing up of that game on Monday night is an aberration. It won't be a lingering issue for the Tigers and their bullpen and K-Rod, so I think they actually will go 4-2. Doc, how about you?
Well, I want to let you know that Brett Ausmus contacted me, and he's been listening to your podcast.
And he thinks of me probably in a way that leads to this, right?
No, he actually messaged me, gave me a couple minutes of his time. I wanted to get him on the podcast. He said he couldn't go on the record, but he said he's thought about a lot of your takes, and this is what he told me he thought of them.
He thinks they're garbage takes, huh? My hot takes aren't good enough for Brett Ausmus.
He doesn't care about your 3-3 opinion, and that's just the way it is. Sorry.
well, he can go take a hike, okay? Hit the road, Brad, and I hope he does by the end of the season still. But Tigers, I like how they look, and I don't want to see them hit the road in terms of going home anytime short of the playoffs this year in October. So, Doc, with that, for episode 44, thank you very much, as always, for being my sidekick, my partner in crime, and the Podfather. So I appreciate that, appreciate everybody else who tunes in, and until next time, have a great week, enjoy the Tigers, and talk to you for episode 45 next Wednesday here on Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company.